Oh, good morning. Good morning. I am Manila Chan. That over there is Ted Roll. You are tuned in to the TMI show, but it actually stands for the Ted Manila Information Show. But we do give you too much information, and we talk about anything and everything from politics, lifestyle, culture, what the animals are doing, taboo stuff, Ted bird watching, I think, orca watching. We did orcas yesterday, talking about our our future orca overlords. Ted, because of the orca's ability to say the name Amy, I feel like that somebody named Amy is going to be our future world leader, like one world government.
Because the
leader.
orcas will install her.
Yeah, because they can say the name Amy.
They can say anything they want. I think they can say xylophone if they want to.
I don't think they're able to say xylophone. I don't know. We heard Amy yesterday. You guys got to look this up. We showed it yesterday. You can see what we're
Orcas
talking
can
about.
Talk.
Orcas.
They can kill anything they want. I like the fact that they hunt on land. I want to know how that works.
That's coming. I think that's coming.
I know there's these sharks that can hunt on land. I think it's the Ganges River. I think it's a river in India where they.
In India?
It's where all freaky things happen.
Well,
and apparently they swim way up the Ganges, and they are in like 3 feet of water, like these ocean sharks.
Shallow. What?
And they basically they're like, we don't care. They're just like, rah! And they swim up, and you can see them they're sticking out. And sometimes if people are walking by or taking a leak into the water or whatever, they jump out and nab them. It's a thing. This does not happen everywhere. Don't worry, this won't happen in the Potomac. But this,
I'm gonna have to look this.
But it does.
Verify.
Pretty sure. Yeah, you should verify. Yeah.
Trust but verify, Ted.
It's one of those things. It's one of those stories. I saw it, and it's it's kind of like Winston Smith in 1984. Like, did I hallucinate that, or did that actually happen? Did I dream that? Do you have? Does your memory ever work like that? Where
yeah,
I think I read this with a news story. I think I saw this, but I'm not. But then it's like, maybe
this
I
is
didn't.
like Sharknado. I'm gonna have to verify this. This can all happen.
Sharknado.
If you're fancy. So if you guys are looking for that straight-laced button-down show, this is not for you. I'm going to warn you guys right now. We do let curse words go on air because we're not FCC controlled on a streaming show. So it is all the stuff that that you already want to hear about, like the top news stories, and then stuff you never knew you needed to know, like what Ted just gave you a little sample of right there with Ganges river sharks biting you in the crotch.
Or anywhere else.
We will have a few laughs along the way. We are live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. So please be sure to like and follow this show. If you are watching us on YouTube, please do us a favor and hit that subscribe button, that big red subscribe button, to help us finally reach those milestones of getting monetized. We are, I think, still within our 90 days. So we're technically an infant show still, right? 90 days of a baby's life. Infancy. I mean, you're still an infant, I would say, but I think medically they consider that in the first 90 days, newborn infant. So that this show is a newborn infant. And of course, shout out to the Rumble Room, always keeping it hot. If you're in the position financially to help support the show there, because commercials on Rumble, as we're learning, things are not worked out. Rumble's fairly new relative to YouTube, right? So they haven't worked out the kinks on the algorithms on how people get monetized. So if you can help us out, you can hit that subscribe button there and become a $5 a month or more subscriber. So today, on today's show, Ted and I I don't even think we're gonna debate, Ted. I think you and I are on the same page with this. Cultural sensitivity training for marginalized groups and persons within the medical field. And does it belong anywhere near medicine? Is there a place for it? I can actually argue a little bit of both, Ted. I don't know about you. I can see why. Oh, you're muted.
I like topics where you can sort of see things from both sides, and this is one of those topics for sure.
Yeah.
By the way, it's not just about the medical field. I mean, they have these kind of training programs in all sorts of other professions too.
Yes. But today we're going to, mostly focus on the medical field because Ted and I have obtained exclusive screen
Training documents used
documents.
in a major medical system in the United
Right.
States.
It's a large hospital system, and Ted and I have obtained a few screenshots of this training, and this is exclusive to us. A source revealed to us that this is what's happening, and everybody has to go through this they cycle it through. So we'll show you exactly what that looks like if you've never received. I've never worked, not never, I shouldn't say never, but at least in the past 10-ish years, I've not worked for any major corporations, Ted. So I've not been subjected, when this woke stuff happened, I have not been subjected to this woke indoctrination. Mm-hmm. Have you?
No, I have not been. But of course, I work for myself. I've never.
Yeah. I thought maybe at the Wall Street Journal that they would force you, even as a contributor.
Yeah, but I'm a contributor. I'm not like on staff that way. I'm not in the office. I don't even think they do it in journalistic organizations. I think we would have heard more about it. The reporters would freak out. Reporters are not woke people. Reporters are not. They curse. They're profane.
But yeah, but
it's one of the things I like about reporters.
On the corporate side, you don't think Bezos has all this training at WAPO, and that's why they speak and write the way they write?
No way. I don't think so.
I don't.
But I mean, it's like I do know people who've been through it. The closest I can say, it's not really the same thing, but it's structurally the same thing. I had a son who was in Boy Scouts, and in order to be allowed to go on a Boy Scout
trip, you have a son
and prove
you still have him.
Yes, but he's not in Boy Scouts anymore. But I was in Boy Scouts too. And anyway, they had you watch this test and basically to prove that you're not like a boy rapist. So so basically it's like you're a dad, you want to go on the camping trip, and it's kind of like, so like how to watch for signs of grooming. And so you watch a little video, and then it's like the multiple choice question. So what are signs of grooming? And it's like, so, you can rat out if one of the other dads or the scoutmaster is trying to diddle a little boy at the camping trip, you're supposed to be able to ID that. Of course, the test doesn't determine whether you're a perv, And
it's just if you can call out other dads.
Yeah, so it's kind of like this sort of like, of course, now the perv dad is watching this and is, oh, this is how they're going to catch me. So
it's like, I won't do that.
It's not really very smart. I know that the scouting BSA, as it is now called, because they now admit girls, does have some they've had some problems with sort of rapey kind of stuff.
Yes,
so I get it, but
the fact that you just made that statement, that sentence came out of your mouth, that Boy Scouts is no longer called Boy Scouts, it's called Scouting America, and girls or those who identify as they them are allowed in,
which I hate. I'm going to be really clear.
Formerly,
me too. I hate it.
Formerly known as the Boy Scouts. So yeah, we'll discuss all of that on the back half of the show. So let's get to headlines, because I'm watching.
One thing before we hit the headlines. I just confirmed the Ganges shark is a real thing. He swims. Apparently, he's become very endangered.
One shark?
Well, no, he's not one shark. He's a type of shark. He's actually technically a bull shark who swims upstream, from the Indian Ocean. And he's elusive because he's almost extinct because the Ganges is filthy, right?
Yes.
So basically, the Ganges, almost nothing can live in that thing. But anyway, the Ganges shark used to swim upstream. And in fact, he was blamed for numerous land attacks where he would. So I didn't imagine that I did see a nature special about this.
That's very strange.
But he's highly endangered.
Climate change? No,
he's endangered due to filth and squalor in the Ganges. There's corpses and
I know.
It's disgusting.
I'm convinced the Ganges River, I know it's sacred in many ways, but then I got a question, why do you poop in it? And that's the reason.
Mistreating your sacred water.
That's the reason I would swear that you see, it's seemingly so that you would hear more stories about 3-headed babies and, you know, teeth, a mouth growing out of your back, is because it's everyone goes into the Ganges River. It's not a healthy environment, let's say.
No.
I'm convinced. So yeah, with that, we got to get moving, because I'm watching Pete Hegseth on my screen over here with his opening remarks for his confirmation hearing.
Speaking of the Ganges shark.
Yeah, well, maybe. A lot
Sharks
of news to
all
get
around.
to. Yeah, well, this is DC, man. What do you expect? Let's hop to it.
All right. And our first headline this morning: Moscow is ready to discuss security guarantees for Ukraine. That, according to Sergei Lavrov, he's the foreign minister of the Russian Federation. Speaking at a press conference earlier yesterday, Lavrov said that any talks have to take place within a broader Eurasian framework in order to address bigger geopolitical issues. We're ready to discuss security guarantees for the country that is now called Ukraine and parts of that country which have not yet determined.
He's like formerly, like Prince, like the artist formerly known as.
Yeah, I mean, will the country that used to be called Ukraine, will they get a symbol? Would it be a swastika? I don't know.
Oh, that's true.
Anyway, half swastika, maybe quarter swastika. And parts of that country which have not yet determined their status, unlike Crimea, Donbass, and Novorossiya, the union of the Donbass republics, which would be Donetsk, Luhansk, and I forget the Zaporozhye, right? The other one. Lavrov, I forget there's a third one. I always forget the third one. I'm sorry. I apologize to the people who live there. Anyway, Lavrov reiterated that the Eurasian context would play a dominant role in these discussions. The western part of the continent will not be able to isolate itself from India, China, and Russia, he said. Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky has said that he wants a peace agreement with Russia within the year, emphasizing the need for strong security guarantees from Western supporters. Zelensky has consistently advocated for firm security assurances, identifying NATO membership as the optimal solution. I'd say that's probably like the optimal non-solution if you really want to keep. I mean, that's what caused this war. Okay,
it's so like a big doy.
So, like, maybe agreeing not to join NATO would be the. Anyway, Moscow, however, has contended that Ukraine's aspirations to join NATO were among the root causes of the ongoing conflict, maintaining that any settlement must result in the country's neutrality and demilitarization. But I bet demilitarization is a throwaway request by Russia. I bet they're willing to let that one go at the negotiating table. Neutrality, I think they're going to have, and not joining NATO, they're going to have too. But you have demands that you make that you have to have. You make demands that you can give away in the negotiation.
Well, it's like when you're negotiating a car deal, right? Like the salesman or the manager always comes back with like staying at sticker price, and you're like, I want $15,000 off the sticker price. And then somewhere you negotiate somewhere in between. But here's the thing about I don't think it's a throwaway request to have no military. Yeah, because look what happened in World War II with Japan after we bombed the shit out of them in in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. We then said, and on top of it, you all can't have a functioning military. You can only have what's the equivalent of like a National Guard, right? Like, and that's
which they
only until recently. Only until recently they started having like more active. I think it was under what's his face that was murdered. Shinzo Abe. Under Shinzo Abe at the end of his term, Abe. And it was very controversial move.
Yeah, he deployed these troops.
He's for the first time in 70 years.
It's technically still like a domestic security
force. You can
force.
designate them whatever you want, but if you're sending them out and changing their job description, then but now they're legal. They're starting to make legal changes, and a lot of people are in Japan are really unhappy because they're a Buddhist country. They don't like it. Japan doesn't, they're a lot of the people are non-interventionist, and they don't want their military to have the chance of being deployed. But those laws are now changing because, as we know, Japan is a puppet state to the U.S.
That's true.
So So for those demands to come from the U.S. to begin with in the 1940s and 50s under, their reconstruction plan, it's not unreasonable, in my opinion, that Russia would say, yo, you need to demilitarize in the same way the U.S. did in Japan when they started rebuilding in the 1950s. This is part of your reconstruction plan. If you don't want to remain a heaping pile of nuclear waste, then you need to demilitarize, and that's what happened.
I think if
the spoils of war go to the victor.
What the Russians really need, though, they don't really need that, because we've already proven that they can beat the Ukrainians. They just did. What they need is, like, I would say it's true. They should probably say Azov's got to go, right? Like, all the Nazi shit's got to go.
Yeah, but they already said that they've done that.
But that's not
saying
true at all. Every time I see a photo of like a military, like a military funeral in Ukraine, that's like on the front page of like Voice of America or USA Today, there's always Nazi insignia in the back. And I'm always like, am I the only person who sees this? So the main one to look for, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, always look for that black and red flag. There's always so many flags, right? First of all, the trident thing is kind of like a neo-Nazi thing, but it's not. That's like fuzzy. But like the red and black side, that's a fascist thing. That's from World War II. That's from the Nazi collaborationist regime of Ukraine that opposed the Soviet Union and welcomed the Germans as liberators. That's a Nazi thing. Just saying. All right. Let's move on here. Russian President Putin has reiterated his readiness to talk to Kiev, noting that any peace settlement must begin with Ukraine ceasing military operations and acknowledging the current territorial realities, in other words, where the current lines are. In July, Putin said that Ukraine had the right to ensure its security, but emphasized that this should not come at the expense of Russia. Every country has the right to ensure its security and choose the means it deems appropriate, he said. However, he said, stressing that achieving the security of one nation must not create threats for another. Putin expressed hopes that this principle would be considered in discussions about Ukraine. Putin highlighted a draft agreement from the Istanbul talks, which detailed security guarantees for Ukraine. Putin said the document was broadly acceptable to Russia, but accused the Ukrainians of discarding it. It was thrown into the trash by the Ukrainian regime, he said. Moscow has also dismissed the idea of a temporary truce, arguing that freezing the conflict would allow Kiev to regroup and prepare for further hostilities. I mean, it's true. I mean, the former Soviet bloc has way too many frozen conflict zones. And going back to the early 1990s and the dissolution of the USSR. And that's caused a bunch of problems, like in Georgia, Azerbaijan,
problems right now, Georgia. Romania.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Romania. So, yeah, it's like not good.
Because they're protecting democracy there right now by throwing out election results completely.
Yeah, well, that's like Ukraine,
man. Protect it.
Ukraine is the most interesting democracy. Has no opposition parties, no opposition media, no elections. So, it's
no freedom of religion.
Right. Yeah. They got rid of the Russian Orthodox Church. So it's kind of like, it's a very streamlined democracy. It's very easy to count the votes. You don't, the campaigning is very simple. It's like there isn't any. So
you don't have to. You don't even have to put money together. You don't have the right to. You don't have to put money together to assemble actual like voting booths. You save a lot of money on the voting booth thing. Like
no annoying campaign ads.
Those dirty fingers, when you after you vote, you do the fingerprint.
Right.
There's tons of money.
No controversies over whether they should have voter ID or no voter ID.
No.
It's like
a streamlined democracy. Yep. And that's how you save it. And I I want to point out the fact that, so as I was looking for video to put up here, honest to God, Ted, I had to use this 2017 video of Vladimir Putin and the Turkmenistan delegation, where they gave him this
Turkmenistani,
puppy.
Right? Remember Turkmenistani?
Are they Turkmenistani?
Yeah, if it's the country, it's Turkmenistani. If it's the tribe, the dominant tribe of Turkmenistan, it's the Turkmen, who used to be called the Turkomen. I'm trying to make this as confusing as possible.
Okay. Well, anyway. This is the Turkmenistan delegation anyway, the delegation from Turkmenistan. So I had to use this video because I'm telling you, every video that I found of Vladimir Putin was like all the algorithms are deliberately showing me the worst images of Vladimir Putin as like angry war criminal, just there's nothing normal and unbiased about him until I found this one from Time magazine, and I had to go way down the timeline to I found 2017 where they're giving him a dog. Why are they giving him a dog? Because like some kind of
Yeah, why are they giving
special
him?
breed.
He's not Haitian. What?
Oh, Ted. Because so for folks that didn't know, Vladimir Putin is a big time animal lover, like serious animal lover. Like just like he's environmentalist in that sense, like in the truest like hippie kind of a way. Like he loves animals and he wants to save them all. And he's a big dog lover. And apparently he owns a lot of dogs.
Remember how mad he got when the train conductor killed the cat?
Yes.
And then he got so pissed. Yeah.
He loves animals and he apparently has a bunch of dogs. But look at the Turkmenistan guy.
Oh my God.
I mean, I know
what's
it's
he doing?
And look, Putin's like, oh wait, don't hold him like that.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Look how cute.
That is a cute dog.
That is a cute dog. Like look at the way Putin jumped up.
Wow.
I'm serious. Look at the way Putin jumped up because he was like, whoa, he's holding him, and like the dog looks uncomfortable. Just watch.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I know you can hold cats that way, but not dogs.
You could not.
And you shouldn't hold them that way for any length of time.
Right. That was what I was going to say.
For like a second, you can, for sure.
Right. To move him, because the mamas do that, like when they're very young. But he's a big dog. He's a big puppy, and
I wonder, so in that situation, I mean, Putin probably doesn't really keep him, right? I mean, they get a guy like a president of a country gets all these crazy gifts.
Yes.
All the time.
But I think, I don't know. I'd like to follow up. I'm going to ask some of my friends in Moscow to see if, hey, what happened to this dog
from the Turkmen dog?
Yeah. What's his name? Turkin?
So it's probably Niyazov or Turkmenbashi.
He's really cute.
He's probably got a month of the year named after him.
Like, I don't know. He's got to keep him. I would imagine Putin got to keep him.
Turkmenistan is so strange. I spent quite a lot of time there.
That's why I was like, I don't know what.
Yeah, I love Turkmenistan, and it's really interesting and strange. Best bazaar ever. It's called the Tolkuchka Bazaar. If you're into shopping, man, this is the place. It's like on the outskirts of the capital, Ashgabat. It's out in the desert, and it's like if you like carpets and like antique like textiles and stuff like that, jewelry, everything's dirt cheap. You can get like a carpet that would be $20,000 here for like $1,500. It's nice. It's amazing. So really cool. It's Tolkuchka means jostling elbows.
Because it's a crowded marketplace. That makes sense.
It can be pretty crowded. Yeah.
All right. I'll leave this here on this cute picture. This is literally the only unbiased video I could find of Vladimir Putin. You can find tons of Sergei Lavrov, like I showed.
I hope he kept that dog. I'm not even I'm more team cat than team dog. Although
I'm more team dog.
But I have to say, I would keep that dog. I'd be at Clovis. You're going to have a new roommate here. All right. Cultural wars and personal issues are expected to dominate the hearing that is currently ongoing right now for Trump's choice to be Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. Hegseth's a former Fox News host and Army combat vet. He's the first of Trump's cabinet picks to be publicly questioned by Congress. He went before the Senate Armed Services Committee starting at 9:30 this morning. He's currently being grilled even as we speak. Roughly a dozen other hearings are also scheduled this week, or if you're English, scheduled this week, as senators race to help Trump fill out his administration ahead of his inauguration, which I can't believe is happening this coming Monday. Hegseth will be introduced at the hearing by Mike Waltz, that already happened, Republican of Florida, Trump's incoming national security advisor, and Norm Coleman, Republican of Minnesota. He's a former senator. According to his prepared opening remarks, Hegseth said he plans to pitch himself as a change agent, saying his goals are to restore the warrior ethos, whatever that means, rebuild our military, whatever that means, and reestablish deterrence, whatever that means. Unlike the current administration, politics should play no part in military matters. We are not Republicans or Democrats. We are American warriors. Oh, that's like that old TV show. Our standards will be high and they will be equal, not equitable. That is a very different word.
We'll be talking about that.
We will be tapped to lead the massive Defense Department. Hegseth has faced allegations of sexual assault, excessive drinking, and financial mismanagement when he ran a veterans advocacy organization, all of which he has denied, not credibly though. He has faced criticism for past opposition to allowing women and gay people to serve in combat, positions that he has since sort of walked back. Others have expressed concern that Hegseth doesn't have adequate management experience to oversee the sprawling military bureaucracy, which employs more than 2 million people and has a budget of over $800 billion a year. It's actually closer to $1.5 trillion when you add it all up the right way. So that's my concern also. I mean, I just don't, this department is going to swallow him whole. This is a job that was hard for, badasses like Casper Weinberger. I just don't see little Petey being able to handle this. It's just massive.
Yeah, I to some extent, I agree with that. Maybe even most of it, but to the lack of experience thing that's coming from people like Liz Warren or war combat veteran Senator Tammy Duckworth, the one that's in the wheelchair, lost both her legs. She was a helicopter pilot, a combat pilot. For her to say Pete Hegseth is not qualified to be in this role. Well, I mean, was she qualified to be a senator by virtue of what? Because you were a combat veteran, a helicopter pilot, were you qualified to be a senator? Like, what kind of experiences?
Well, that's a fair point. It's almost like, it's almost like there's nothing that could really prepare.
Right.
You.
What's the qualification? Like, what is Liz Warren?
Maybe being a deputy secretary of defense.
Like, I can understand, that, but like this, like the level of hypocrisy coming from people like Liz Warren, like, lady, you were an egghead at Harvard. Like, why does that qualify you to be a senator? Like, that doesn't, that's not applicable here. I do think he's a little JV to be in such a senior giant position, but at the same time, like, are any of these people actually qualified? Like, I'm not thrilled with Lloyd Austin now.
I hated him, but Donald Rumsfeld was qualified.
He was very few people have been qualified for the jobs that they are appointed to. Like, I hate Hillary Clinton, but she was a very qualified person to be Secretary of State, to be a senator, she had the resume for it. She had the
resume, but she didn't. She was a perfect example of someone who had an extremely impressive resume, but a really short list of accomplishments. Right? I mean,
yes.
As a U.S. senator, when she ran in 2016 for president, she had literally I looked it up. She only had her name on 6 pieces of legislation that ever passed the U.S. Senate, and they were all renaming the names of post offices in New York State. And I was like, so you really? And then she also, as Secretary of Defense, State, she said, it was basically like, well, what's your accomplishment, right? Like, where's your Middle East peace agreement? Where's your, she didn't have anything like that. And she was like, well, remember she said, I traveled a lot. I logged like 100,000 miles or a million miles, or whatever the fuck. Oh, great. So you have a lot of Delta points. Good for you.
Right. You got air miles. Good for you, lady. Like, okay.
Yeah.
So there's but like I said, like, if we're just looking at CVs, at resumes, like it doesn't equate to them putting out, their quality of work, right? Like, look at Hillary Clinton, like that perfect example.
True.
Another good resume was Bush Senior, right?
True.
Great resume. Excellent resume.
I would say that also it turned out that he did have Bush the first had good temperament to be president.
Yes.
I think temperament for the presidency, temperament's super important, and that's Trump's seriously, nobody talks about it. The T word never comes up. That's the one thing that he just doesn't have. That's right. I mean,
well, that's a different era. It's a bygone era, Ted, and Bush Sr. definitely had that presidential gravitas.
Obama had the right temperament, calmness.
He presented well, yes, just like Bush Sr. And it's here and there that we have that. Pete Hegseth does not have the gravitas. I'll give him that, but I'm not going to knock him purely based on resume.
He's fucked. He can't do this job. There's no.
But he's gonna get confirmed. He's gonna get confirmed. From what I heard a week and a half ago, he already secured the votes in the Senate. They're not voting yet because Trump has to get inaugurated. That's how this works.
Doesn't he have to get some Democrats to pull this off?
No, there's 53 in Senate, Republican
that's right. I always
senators.
forget about that. It hasn't happened yet.
They scored 1 or 2 losses to get confirmed. So, and then JD Vance, once he becomes the tiebreaker, it's done. So even if it was a split decision, he'll break the tie. But they're doing the confirmation hearings now. Once Trump and Vance get into office, it becomes official. Then these people, the Senate goes to vote, and they actually cast the votes. And then these people are official in their whatever capacity they are. So I think it's going to be a fun. If anybody wants to watch nerd TV, it's that C-SPAN to see how what kind of shenanigans go on, because the Democrats like Liz Warren or whatever.
Well, this is probably live on CNN and Fox and MSNBC right now.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
That's true. That's true. I don't know if they'll air the whole thing, but C-SPAN will.
I would suspect. Well, Fox certainly will air the whole thing. Gavel.
You think so?
No question.
Well, and these are the people that are up today. Doug Collins, little Petey there. And Doug Burgum, who is getting delayed, apparently, right? His paperwork.
His name is, you have to pronounce it Burgum. Or it's like sorghum, but it's Burgum. All right. Let's move on here. We're running slow here. While thousands of families search for stability after losing their homes in last week's fires in LA, many are suddenly confronting another crisis: the long-standing shortage of affordable rental housing in Southern California. That shortage has just become even worse. Every time I call somebody about a listing, I break into tears, said Tina Poppy. Her house in Altadena, you can guess where this is going, was just destroyed in the Eaton fire. She said that her family had just finished extensively renovating it into their dream home, and now it's only a dream. Poppy said she, her husband, 2 kids, and 3 dogs are staying at a house offered by a member of a local moms group on Facebook, but the family's search for long-term housing is turning up listings with fewer bedrooms, worse amenities, and asking rents much, much higher than her family's previous mortgage payment. There's not much available for rent, and what's available is just disappearing immediately, and there's a lot of price gouging, she said. It's so hard to believe that I'm fighting tooth and nail to get this house that I don't want. Displaced families have been contacting LAist, which is a news website there, with multiple examples of rental house listings that show huge jumps in asking rents in the wake of the fires. LAist reported on one listing for a 4-bedroom in Bel Air that went up Saturday morning for $29,500 a month. That's an 86% increase from the advertised rent in September of last year, just a few months ago. The listing agent said that she advised her client to put the home up for rent after the fires broke out. People are desperate, and you can probably get good money, said the agent, Fiora Aston, with Compass. The listing, however, was taken down later that same day, presumably after the story appeared. Capitalism, best system in the world.
Well, look, I can see why, as a realtor. I mean, I was a realtor and in Hollywood and Beverly Hills. So I get the housing shortage. I saw it firsthand. I was a realtor, to make ends meet because the economy tanked or whatever in 2010. I came back to the US. So I saw the housing problems firsthand after the bubble burst, and especially in LA. There's so much regulation there. This is like this perfect shitstorm, Ted. Like, housing is like one of my passions. Like, I love talking about this topic. But in LA specifically, it has overregulated itself as an industry in that city, specific to that city, that not only is there a supply and demand shortage, but then with overregulation, people can't build more properties. And when the people that do build properties, the permitting and rules stuff, like having the inspectors come, you are months and months, like sometimes over a year. Like there's a backlog to have inspectors come to give you permits, right? To do something as stupid as expanding your house or building an ADU. That's what we would call in layman's terms a guest house, right?
Or a mother-in-law
Now,
unit, yeah.
right. Well, that's racist somehow, Ted.
Or it's misogynist, or it's in-lawist.
In-law suite or whatever. That's people don't get married anymore, Ted. But
That's true.
I saw this firsthand. So Los Angeles kind of screwed itself with the whole housing sector. And now that this fire has broken out, there's no place for people to go. I thought about that instantly, just on reflex, because I worked in that industry for a few years. And I was flying back and forth when I first moved to DC because I still had clients in LA and stuff I had to sort out before I could kind of give that up. And even 10 years ago, I knew like when one day when disaster strikes, and I thought it was going to be the big one, it's going to be the earthquakes. But I knew when disaster struck that LA was going to paint itself into a corner, and you have made it unprofitable. And I don't mean in the exorbitant way that you just gave the example of right there, Ted. I mean unprofitable even for small, landlords like me. Like I own my old condo before I got married. If we use this example in Los Angeles, it's completely unprofitable where you can't get people out of your house or your condo if they stop paying. You put too much risk on small owners like me. I'm not rich. I'm not even, maybe I'm real estate rich if you look at it that way, but I'm not rich. But if you screw me out of a month's rent and I can't get you out, I'm screwed. Like I'm completely screwed. I'm not some mega, landlord like Trump that has towers everywhere. And I'm not, there are more people like me than these mega landlords everywhere else around the world, around the country. Right. And that's how LA, policies and rules specific to the city has painted itself into a corner. And now all these fire victims are screwed because of it. And I'll tell you, Ted, most of those people in the Palisades, as you know, you and I have discussed this, those are the NIMBY people that are, the loudest, squawkingest, wokest, whatever, right? They're like, racist landlord policies, racist property policies. And now they're shit out of luck themselves. So this is what they have voted and pushed city council for. Now they're dealing with the consequences. So good luck, NIMBYs. That's all I can say about that.
I don't know. Look, I think it is.
That's my tirade.
It is simply supply and demand, honestly. I think, no question about it. And it's capitalism. If we lived in a society where housing was viewed as a human right, we wouldn't have this issue. Everybody, you got burned out of your house, the government would provide you with a new house, and that's what they should do.
Well, that's a lot of shoulds, and but that's not where we're at.
It's a lot. I have a lot of shoulds. Oh, I know.
I agree.
Shoulds.
I have so many shoulds, but that's, I understand we're not there. It's not where we're at, and there's no solution.
And it's only going to get worse because forecasters are warning of extreme fire danger across Los Angeles today. Firefighters are still working to contain the multiple blazes that have already burned down so much of the county. The National Weather Service expects winds to peak out between 4 a.m. this morning and noon tomorrow, with gusts between 60 and 70 miles an hour in LA and Ventura counties. Not good for fighting fires. While generally weaker than last week's, this next batch of high Santa Ana winds could down trees, cut power, endanger drivers, and most alarmingly fuel new and existing fires throughout the area. The National Weather Service warns that these will probably cause explosive fire growth. Stay aware of your surroundings. Be ready to evacuate. Avoid anything that can spark a fire, it says. There are 4 active fires as of this morning, according to CAL FIRE. The Palisades and Eaton fires have burned over 37,000 acres since last week and are 14% and 33% contained, respectively. The Hearst fire, which also started last Tuesday. It's at 97% containment after burning almost 800 acres. The Auto Fire has burned about 56 acres in Ventura County, that's north of LA, since it broke out late Monday. Firefighters have stopped its forward progress, but they have not yet contained any of it at all. In the first 11 days of the year, there have been more than 40,000 acres burned from 105 fires, Deputy State Fire Marshal Bruce Bennett said over the weekend, with an estimated 12,000 structures destroyed. This makes the Eaton and Palisades fire probably the second and fourth most destructive fires in California's history, and it goes on.
Yeah. I only have one comment, Ted, just to put this into perspective. The burn areas so far of the main fires are bigger than the square mileage, kilometers, however you want to measure, than Manhattan, and bigger than San Francisco proper, the entire city.
If there's any good news here, and there's not much, it's that the most populated, densely populated parts of Los Angeles County, which we would consider like LA proper, right? Like Beverly Hills, and the city of Los Angeles and the city of Santa Monica. Those places are relatively not as affected except by the smoke. And the fires are mostly north and northeast of the city, up in the hills, which are fortunately a bit less densely populated.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, it's well, ongoing. That's all we'll say. I mean, how much can we?
Ongoing problem. Yep, and not going to end anytime soon. And of course, mark my words. After the fires come the mudslides. Right.
I was just going to say, if we get rain.
Well, and the rain's been more severe than ever in the it's raining a lot more in LA than it used to. It's so weird, right? It's like it alternates between being insanely dry and insanely wet. There's no moderation anymore. And I always come back to something I heard a climate scientist, sort of dash off, and I think it turned out to be totally right. It's global warming is a bad name. It's really global weirding. And I think that's like a really good way to put it, because there's so much more energy in the atmosphere that you get all sorts of strange phenomena. Like, so you can, because of climate change, you might be in Idaho and get more blizzards than you normally would be. And it's like, well, but it's global warming. I don't understand, And but yeah, anyway.
I can get with that. Global weirding.
All right, let's go. And finally, before we get to our main topic today, roughly 2 in 5 adults over the age of 55, hey, wait, that's me, will develop some form of dementia during their remaining lifespan. That, according to a new large-scale analysis published yesterday. The findings imply that the number of newly diagnosed cases will double from around 500,000 to about 1 million a year by the year 2060. Dementia is an umbrella term for a number of neurodegenerative conditions that cause loss of cognitive abilities, including Alzheimer's and Huntington's diseases. There are many others. Researchers pointed to an aging U.S. population as the primary cause. Roughly a quarter of Americans will be 65 years old or older by 2060, or if we're even around, if anyone's around at all by 2060, because, there's that prediction that human civilization will collapse by the year 2050, but also cited issues like poor diet and lack of exercise. Women who live on average 5 years longer than men because they're evil had a 48% chance of developing symptoms compared to 35% for men, while Black Americans and people possessing a gene that helps carry lipids and cholesterol in their bloodstream range between 45 and 60%. Alzheimer's accounts for about 2/3 of all dementia cases. Yeah, that's scary.
I'm well on my way to that. I joke, but because there's really nothing else I can say about it, Ted. It seems to like run in my family, like these neurodegenerative diseases. Like my grandmother had it. I watched her start the slide at about early 60s, which is terrifying because she was a young grandma. My mom was a young mom. And I kind of even that out by becoming an old mom. So watching my grandmother go, and with your own mother, Ted, like this.
I do.
I think I'm probably well on my way there already. Like losing little bits and pieces and going, oh yeah, what's that? What's his name? George H.W. Bush. That's it. I've already noticed, like, entering my 40s, that things have changed. But they also blame, for us women, Ted, they blame childbearing.
Do they?
Yeah.
For
women's
increasing your chances of getting dementia? Is it because your
that
kids
and
drive you crazy, or what's the story?
cognitive decline in women? I've read some studies that say for women, the more children you have, the higher likelihood that you will, one, get some sort of like dementia, like Alzheimer's, and B, that, oh gosh, see, it's already happening. I forgot. So if you have kids, it puts you at the higher risk. And now I feel like I'm not supposed to say higher risk anymore because I was reading those slides from our source. We're not supposed to say populations at high risk, but they, what I remember reading was that women are at higher risk, once you become a mother, and the severity of your mental decline increases with the number of children that you have, that you bear, so that there's a direct correlation, they say. So, maybe I'll just have a touch of Alzheimer's, Ted, because I only have the one kid.
Alzheimer's
light.
You can still be president. The bad news is you won't know that you were.
That's true. Just saying. I don't think I'd want to be.
That establishment has now been established. Okay.
That is true.
That establishment has been, that precedent has now been established, says the man who's.
See, it's already happening to you, Ted. It's happening.
No, it's true. I mean, my mom had it. Her mom had it. I hope that because I'm a dude, I won't get it, and but it probably doesn't work that way.
Well, I mean, I don't know what Joe Biden's family looks like.
Shoot me like a dog.
I don't know about Joe Biden, what his family looked like. I mean, I don't want to be that, because I remember that was the look on my grandmother's face.
Yeah. No, it is that look. Yeah.
But Joe Biden has that look. This is the look. This is the vacant, like no one's home. The lights are on, but nobody's home.
Yeah, confused too. It's a confused, scared look.
Yeah,
it's very sad.
This is the look. This is it. We're looking at it. The face
sad.
Of dementia. Yeah, it's very sad. But anyway, but it's perfectly ties into our next topic. So I'm just gonna go ahead and hit the jaws on that.
Or I'll read our little blurb here. All right. Everyone needs access to high quality health services, but health inequities still persist. Societal attitudes among healthcare workers, advocates say, foster stigma and discrimination that discourage some patients from seeking help. Enter the woke brigade in an effort to provide culturally and linguistically appropriate, proficient healthcare delivery for our nation's increasingly diverse population. That part's a quote. Doctors, nurses, and others are being trained in cultural sensitivity classes to use more better words. Are cultural sensitivity programs effective? Or, as some studies have shown, can they be counterproductive and even create a hostile work environment, as has been alleged in the courts? Are they actually a distraction from the real causes of unequal access to healthcare, which are poverty and health insurance companies that routinely deny claims?
Duh.
We have exclusively here on the TMI show obtained documents from a cultural sensitivity program currently in widespread use in a U.S. hospital system. Join us as we explore the role of language training in a medical workplace. But this might come to your workplace even if you're not at all in the medical field. And so
it'll be a variation of this. But
Manila,
should I just scroll through?
Walk us through some examples. Yeah, read them. Remember, a lot of people are listening on Apple Music,
that's true.
And they can't see, so you got to read it.
That's true. Okay, so we got a few slides from an actual 4 or 5 hour training that people that work at this specific healthcare company subjects its workers to every 6 months, apparently. Oof. 6 months. Ted, if
in case you forgot,
this is evidence of trying to drill this into your head if you're a worker at this particular medical company. Drill it into your head. And mind you, this particular healthcare provider that we've obtained this from is patient facing. Like, this is not like somebody behind, United Healthcare calling you to say, we're not going to approve your claim. This is like hospital. So patient facing care.
Mhm.
And they want their workers to be reminded every 6 months of being sensitive. And I'll be the first, Ted, as I admitted earlier, that language does play a major role, obviously, in shaping culture and thus thought and thus, like how we treat one another. But personally, I feel when it comes to medicine that if anything, the language should be totally neutral and not trying to be overly sensitive. There's an overcorrection in our society as a whole, and I feel like it's trickled down into medicine. And when stuff like that starts happening, look at 2020, right? During the whole COVID era thing, like you just want to be sensitive and not tell people they're at high risk if A, B, C, D. Like, we know that now that people that are obese, people with underlying health problems or whatever, we're at the greatest risk. But the healthcare practitioners were not apparently allowed to say these things because they're taboo, they're unkind, they're not woke and not nice enough. So I'll read these slides.
Yeah.
So
let's go through them so we know exactly what we're talking about.
So, for example, care that is sensitive to culture builds trust. Care that is not sensitive to culture destroys trust. Good quality of care outcomes and important healthcare laws require culturally sensitive care. This module will review the following: the meaning of culture, how to provide equal and fair treatment to all parties, the outcome of being sensitive and not being sensitive to an individual's culture. So I don't like, Ted, doesn't that, so if we're both unconscious, right? They read my name, they read your name. We're at this hospital, Ted. Your name is Ted Rawl, right? They look at the chart. I'm unconscious. They see Manila Chan. So they're like, oh, we need to be culturally. This guy's a white dude, so we can assume he's American and probably Christian. We'll treat him, based on that. Here's this little Asian lady, Manila Chan. So we must treat her culturally sensitive, not realizing that I'm also an asshole American just like you, Ted. Like, but if we're both unconscious, like, how
I don't think this is about Manila. This is not about how to talk about unconscious.
No, it is.
This is how to talk to you when you are conscious, right?
No, but I'm saying, like, this is pervasive. Like, when you're teaching your staff to look at people, you're telling them to racially profile.
Let's hear some more. Let's get into it.
So to me, that's
I feel like people need to see the examples. Okay.
Glossary. Here's a glossary of words for healthcare providers.
This is good.
Bias. An opinion in favor of or against one thing, person, or group. Bisexual describes a person who is attracted to two or more sexes or genders, because there's a myriad of those now.
Right.
Cisgender.
I think there's actually really, truly, even in woke terms, only two sexes, right? Anyway.
No.
I thought there were multiple genders.
No, they say sex is a spectrum. Sex, not gender. Sex.
Okay. All right. Well, okay.
It's pervasive. I told you. That's evidence. It's pervasive.
Keep going.
Cisgender describes a person whose sex assigned at birth aligns with their gender identity.
It's like the sorting hat in Harry Potter. It's assigned to you at birth.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I love that term. Assigned at birth is such a dumb phrase.
Describes a person who is attracted to the same sex. Mm-hmm. Lesbian describes a gay woman. Mm-hmm. LGBTQ+, an acronym standing for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and or queer.
These things, everyone knows these things.
Marginalized describes a group of people who are treated as not important. That's not how I would have defined them. Okay, but whatever. Pansexual.
I would have said like less treated like they're a minority.
You can't say that word. No.
And therefore not necessary to be paid attention to would have been better.
Can't say minority anymore.
Okay. But a minority is like a smaller than majority. Yeah.
No. No, that
That's a
word cannot
statistic. That's a
exist.
mathematical term.
No, I don't care, Ted. It cannot exist anymore. I've read these slides thoroughly.
Okay, keep going.
Minority cannot exist. Or what's fair and equal treatment that is sensitive to culture is the key to high quality person-centered care. Person, not patient. Person, not patient care. Person care.
Not puppy-centered.
No. Below are some phrases healthcare workers should and should not use when
Here we
caring
go.
for people.
This is what I'm finally. Okay, let's roll up our sleeves here.
Consider using positive terms, using person-first language, keeping subcultures in mind. Say groups with increased risk of negative outcomes. Person facing homelessness. Address the exact group by name. Do not say high risk, at risk, the homeless, minority groups.
But wait a
or
minute. If
ethnic
you
groups.
are sleeping outside, you're not facing a risk of homelessness. You are homeless, right?
No, you're
like
unhoused.
If I have a cold, I'm not facing a risk of getting a cold. I have a cold.
You're unhoused. So for example, say groups with increased risk of negative outcome. Do not say high risk or at risk. Say person facing homelessness versus don't say the homeless.
But person facing homelessness to me indicates someone. Well, I guess it's true. It could be like you could be currently homeless, but it's bullshit.
So they don't say
this violates Strunk and White. It violates Orwell, right? Which is use simple words and phrases whenever possible.
Correct. Don't say minority group or ethnic groups. Address the exact group by name. Turkmenistani.
Turkmenistanis.
Not Central Asian.
Pretentious douchebags, let's say.
So these are what you can or cannot say. What is the best way to ensure care is culturally sensitive? Using positive terms. That's the correct answer. The wrong answer is using negative terms only when necessary. Using second person language. It's incorrect. Positive terms should always be used during care. So remember, what they consider positive terms is like this broad, like Turkmenistani people. That's a correct
That's
term.
a definition. I mean, Turkmenistani people are a thing. Anyway.
So here's a marginalized, sidelined group, like people with disability. The wrong term is crippled. I think we know that. I think this isn't the 1950s.
Gimpy.
This is not like the 1950s, like we know. And then
there's a crippled guy here.
But here's the person first preferred term. People with disabilities. I also like the even more positive sense, the people with different abilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's not listed here.
Differently abled. I guess that's fallen out of favor. Maybe not. I don't know.
So low income is a marginalized group. Do not say poor people. You say people with incomes below the poverty level.
I don't know that as a person who has had often an income below the poverty level.
Yes,
that
been
would
poor.
Make me feel better than being called poor.
I have been poor on and off much of my life.
Me too. And I do not know. I don't really know that would make me feel better. I mean, victim of capitalism.
I'm not offended.
I might like better.
Okay, let's couple more. The marginalized group within mental health. Don't say crazy. The preferred term
crazy. Anyway.
The preferred term is people who
nuts,
either
bonkers,
experience
up, broken brain,
experience depression, experience trauma, stress, or anxiety. Exact medical terms should be used. So don't just say, don't write them off as crazy, bonkers, nuts,
fucked up,
loony. Don't say those things. You gotta say a lot of words, a lot of foofy, fluffy language to pad the blow of saying Put this guy in a 5150 hole
suffering from
because he's
possible
fucking nuts.
complex post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes, like every greeter and like nurse's aide should speak in these complex terms. Sexuality and gender.
That's going to be really useful when people come in who are not very well educated or speak a foreign language.
Yes, we have like a lot of Ethiopian nurses aides here in Northern Virginia, and their English isn't great. I mean, they're very sweet, lovely.
I don't even understand this shit myself, half of it.
Right, and you're gonna want these like 60-year-old nurses aides to learn these terms. Like, okay, sexuality and gender identity. Don't say the transgenders.
Like Trump.
Don't say
anything.
That.
Don't say anything Trump would say. That would.
Don't say anything with a "the" in front of it, right? Like
the blacks,
like Trump does. The blacks or my blacks.
The Asians.
My blacks, my Asians, my gays. He says my gays. Where are my gays? So okay.
Somehow my gays sounds kind of good, almost. I don't know.
Well, because you hear it in music, like when you're like, where my homies at, where my dogs at, where my such and such at.
Right.
Like it's in music. So LGBTQ plus, that's what you say. People who are lesbian or gay.
By the way, if you're a plus, isn't that kind of like in Gilligan's Island where you're just like, and the rest?
And the rest. Oh yes.
I mean, it's kind of sad. Right? I mean, I feel like that's non-inclusive, right? Like
this inclusive language is very uninclusive.
I got attacked for making fun of asexuals, and they said, people.
Does that just mean you're not getting laid, or
no? An asexual is a person who an asexual person, I should say, not the asexuals. The asexuals are people who have no sexual attraction to anyone, and so these are people who, and so I was like, but you're not, and they claim that's a sexual orientation. I say bullshit. That's an absence of a sexual orientation. You're not. If you are asexual, you're not in the game. You're not part of it. And by the way, man, I'm jealous because that means you have a lot of time to be writing novels and like, you can be start your own band. You're like not distracted every time like someone hot walks down the street. You're like, right. That's great. I mean, I'm totally jealous, but they're like, no, it's a sexual. It's like they just want to be part of something. You're not part of it. You're not part of it. So.
No, you're not part of the rest.
And Gilligan's Island. Enjoy. Anyway.
Yeah. So, and then they say this list does not include all possible terms.
Oh God.
Okay.
God help us all.
All right. Mm-hmm. So example here, like read the questions below the images, and mind you, I want to remind everyone that these are actual screenshots from a 4-hour-long, every 6 months rotation, cultural and language DEI woke training within a very large medical company, patient-facing. They make their workers...
And let's keep going, but let's face it here. Here's the question, right? I mean, look, I think people should be called what they want to be called. I think people should, I think treating people respectfully is always good. And like, yes,
that's you.
It also takes a little bit of work sometimes. Like, for example, when I was a kid, I went in a matter of 5 years, I went from being taught that Black people were called colored to Afro-American to African-American to Black American, back to African-American, then to Blacks lowercase, and now we're at Blacks uppercase. Title case,
also,
and like POC. Whatever, that's fine. That's part of your job. It's sort of like, when I remember my mom being like, "Wait, you can't call them Orientals?" No, and I was like, "Why not?" She's like, "I'm like, it's just not. It's not. It's not that anymore."
Those are typically inanimate objects.
Or
the culture.
I mean, it's like the reason obviously is because it was like Orientalism was describing in opposition to the norm of the West, the Occidental, right? But the thing is, and I don't really see how that's offensive because Occidental was its own thing. But the Chinese called called China the Middle Kingdom, right? They considered themselves the center of the world. But anyway, the point is,
That sounds very Hobbit-like.
you do have to true. It's true. You do have to change, but you do have to pay attention to these things. I believe in all that, but I don't really believe for one that going so far, so deep into all of this is a appropriate use of a health worker's time. And I also don't think it's going to resolve equity issues in the system. I mean, income disparity and the shitty fucking health insurance companies who don't pay out on claims. That's what's keeping people out of the doctor's office.
We'll delve into that as our last word, Ted. But let me just finish reading here. Sorry, because this asks the questions, right? It says, read the questions below the images. So this one says, culture. Are individuals offered care and treatment options that consider their culture? So Ted, if I'm a Muslim woman and I need whatever's wrong with me, and this vaccine can help me, but it is made with like gelatinous whatever, there's pig something in there,
juice,
there's some sort of pig juice in there. Are you as the nurse that's supposed to provide me life-saving care supposed to know the literal like biochemical makeup of what's in this syringe?
Well, in my view, no. And even if they do know, they should give it to you anyway, because frankly, religion isn't true. It's a bunch of mythology. And like basically their job is to be involved in science, and they're supposed to try to save your life. Period.
Different argument, yes.
And just because you believe in a dumb sky
I agree on the bottom line. Is like, no, when you're in a life-threatening situation where somebody's trying to help you, they cannot consider your race, your color. If you're wearing a hijab,
let me tell you, like when I was in, with my ex-wife and I, we were on a trip in Jordan. We had a car accident and we went to a clinic. It was pretty serious. We rolled the car a bunch of times. I rolled the car a bunch of times. Okay. So full disclosure, it wasn't her fault. So anyway, the point is the doctor wouldn't touch her, right? Because of it's Muslim. So you must have had this experience over there when you were in the UAE, right? They wouldn't touch her. So literally it was like sort of like, well, and Jordan's a relatively moderate Muslim country, but they're kind of like, well, you look okay. It's like, okay, but how do you know she doesn't have a broken rib or something? But they couldn't really provide her with appropriate care. Again, I'd say, like, frankly, an American hospital system, frankly, should not have that cultural sensitivity. If you bring in a woman who's Muslim, even from a conservative family, she'd be like, they've got to touch her to treat her. Okay, sorry.
So this is what they're trying to apply here, is like cultural sensitivity when treating somebody. That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying earlier, was that this is discrimination.
Care, sure. As long as it doesn't hurt care, fine. But anyway,
so the other question here: equal access. Do healthcare workers consider that some groups of people do not have access to healthcare? Yes, the vast majority of Americans. Like
they're I think they don't need to be told. No one's more aware than healthcare workers about this.
What the fuck, really? Like, okay, just policies. Does the facility have policies and a culture that support health and equal treatment for all? That question right there.
Well, not people who are uninsured.
No. Well, look, Ted, I'll okay, they show a black healthcare worker or whatever darker people with more melanin in their skin than me.
She's black.
Ted, I don't know what the proper thing to say is now that I'm going through this cultural sensitivity training.
She's black.
Yeah, I don't know what to call her. Mm-hmm. This woman of color. Mm-hmm. We've gone to that now. WOC or POC, people of color, BIPOC.
I don't like POC because whenever I hear POC, I think it's too close to POS. I'm serious.
This BIPOC, visually identified female.
A year before I heard it, I figured out what BIPOC even meant. That also sounds like a disease.
It really does.
Like you're suffering from a major case of BIPOC. We're not going to ask where you were hanging out, but you're going to need some antibiotics for that.
So the image of this black healthcare worker, this woman pushing an old white lady in a wheelchair, everything I said there is apparently a no-no, a taboo in this, training manual.
Yeah, you'd be
Everything
fired.
I just
You
said,
might be shot.
everything I just said is incorrect and
Dumped
bad.
into a pit.
For real. But I will say, because I've done a whole healthcare special on maternity wards, and the U.S. has the highest of all first world nations by a lot. Ted, I don't know if you knew this. The maternal mortality rate of all first world nations, we have the highest, and I'm going to include even 1.5 countries that are in between one and second world nations, like Costa Rica, who has a far superior healthcare system and way lower maternal mortality rate than the United States. So a lot of that, when you drill down further into it, you do see disparities in health outcomes amongst specifically Black women. That Black women, but you would need like a whole 2-hour show to even drill into that. A lot of it is their personal health backgrounds, each individual Black mother, right? And then the access to care is another thing. And then thirdly, the financial and economic strata that they pull from, because I can almost guarantee you a wealthy Black lady living in, in Fairfax is going to have a much greater and better health outcome than a poor Black woman, or whatever I'm supposed to say for poor now, Black woman in Southeast DC. They're going to have two different health outcomes. And it has nothing to, obviously, I'm comparing two Black women, and I've seen cases like this. It has nothing to do with their race. It has everything to do with the fact that one Black lady lives in wealthy ass like Vienna in Fairfax, and the other one lives in like the hood of DC. Who do you think is going to have a better health? Like, yes. Like, she lives along the Anacostia.
Of course.
She has, like, so hello. So this whole thing is just stupid when, yes, I agree. There are health disparities.
There's some more, even more crazy races. Ones, right? This is one of my favorite ones that we got. Like, one was an assessment, right? Select the best answer. 2 employees have a loud, heated argument at the workplace. What type of violence is this?
What type of violence is it?
Yeah, what type of violence is this? All part of the same training thing.
Oh, because language is violence.
Criminal intent. B, customer/client. C, worker on worker. D, personal relationship. And the correct answer is worker on worker.
Worker. Yeah.
But it's a loud, heated argument. I guess you and I engage in a lot of violence here on the TMI show.
We do. You wake up and bring violence.
We occasionally have the loud, heated argument, or loud, moderately lukewarm, heated argument.
I just talk loud,
or
Ted.
Maybe,
Asians tend to be very people that think Asians are not loud. That's wrong. They are wrong. That means they're not.
They've never been to Asia or China.
That's right. You know what that is, Ted? So if people believe that Asians are quiet and what that actually means is they don't like you, or they don't know you very well. Because if you know any Asians very well, we are loud talkers, and we talk like we're shouting across the room all the time. That's the majority of Asians. If they're around people that they know, right, and are comfortable with, like and they'll get real close to you, because it's a cultural thing. They're used to being around, and I'm talking about like mainland Asianers. It's crowded space. People are crowded. So they, but
all right.
Anyway.
Any more examples here? Because we should start to go into our commentary phase here.
Blame. Do healthcare workers blame individuals when their health outcomes are poor?
Maybe if you weren't smoking all the time, 5 packs of cigarettes a day, you wouldn't have fucking lung cancer.
Yes. You do. Yes. There is fucking blame. There's blame. Blame exists. Like this again is what I hate, is that you absolve people. And now we're seeing this in healthcare by not blaming the patient, you're absolving them, one, of their role in causing their XYZ disease, right? Chronic disease. But secondly, now you are less likely to inform them, hey, maybe you should not, eat KFC every day because your cholesterol is through the fucking roof. Now you're less inclined to say that because now you're blaming the victim. This is victim language.
Maybe don't blast music in your headphones if you want your hearing not to suck,
Like this is why this is all wrong. Like woke and all this stuff does not belong in medicine, because this blame part, there is blame.
Stupid.
And not to say,
look, obviously,
the doctor doesn't have to be a dick about it.
Cause effect, exactly. The doctor could just say, like, well, you may want to consider, changing more diet, more exercise, or whatever they want to say, right? Like don't, be careful when you listen to music. Otherwise, you might, increase your risks of tinnitus. You could say that.
Right. There are ways to say it.
You need doctors to say that. You do need doctors to say, like, as far as we know, if you do this, it might cause that.
If you eat Big Macs every day, you are going to have high cholesterol.
We're looking at you, Mr. President.
And yes, like I'm wink, wink. Like, you could be like RFK Jr., and look like that at 70. But
although what happened to his face? I mean, he's in such good shape.
Well, you can't work out your face.
He looks like he was run over by a car.
That's a lot of sun exposure, I would say. Honestly.
Yeah, he does go out. He likes to be outside a lot. Right?
He likes to be outside, like windsurfing,
and
like
he's in,
all
and
the
he's
Kennedys
in SoCal where there's no ozone.
Well, right. So, he just, from here
Maybe
down,
he got singed by wildfires.
Oh, from here down, he's fit. From here up, like like they are fair-skinned Irish people.
You're saying he's a butter guy, but his face.
Oh, his face isn't bad. It's just his skin.
No, his face is terrible. Skin. Are you kidding?
I don't think his face is terrible.
I think
he has the sparkly blue.
Cheryl's kind of like, we're going to have to do it from
Cheryl's
behind.
Hot.
We're going to have to do it from behind, honey. Sorry.
Cheryl's hot. Like, right? Like, we agree with that.
Cheryl's definitely hot.
Cheryl is a MILF.
She's a cutie.
She's a catch for him.
It's less, but I think in Cheryl's case, it's really honestly like, yeah, she's got a cute little body, but it's in a cute little face, but it's not really about that. It's energetic. She seems like lively, funny, she seems smiley. Likeable. She has twinkly eyes. That's what it really is. I mean, she could look very different and she'd still be very attractive.
Well, no, but that's why she's pretty.
Her. Yeah.
I think it's because it comes from the inside.
I mean,
if you're
so
a
what? Her
shitty,
body's like
person,
she's like a cut and paste, like generic, thin little
Hollywood celebrity.
Yeah, they all look like that. I mean, who cares?
They all kind of right.
But
she's cute for that reason.
It's the twinkle.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. But look, she not only did she marry a Kennedy, I think, and as a straight woman, neck up, I could see, like, when he was young, very handsome, like many of the Kennedys are. Like, that's just, it runs in their genes. Like, they're good looking people, right? But look, from the neck up, he hasn't had any work done. Number one, he is 70.
That's clear. If he has, he should get a refund.
That's so sad. Well, but look, he's had a lot of sun exposure. I know, it's that, and he partied a lot when he was young, as all the Kennedys do. Yep. And then he kind of straightened up once he became he adulted. He adulted and took on this whole like healthcare thing and health and, Children's Health Defense Fund and all Defense Fund and all that. And he became more aware of, health after partying again, as all Kennedys do. But at that point, when you're like 35 and you straighten up, you've spent from, let's say, age 15 to 35 with your face exposed windsurfing, at Martha's Vineyard or whatever you're doing your whole life as a Kennedy, right? But from the neck down, he's taken care of himself, and that's great. But again, it's less the fact that he's white. Just sure, more white people happen to have more money, and there's other things we can get into about that. But yes, he's a Kennedy. He's rich. He has access to great health care. He has access to dietitians and all of that, and people to cook for him even, right? I mean, he's a Kennedy. You and I don't have that. Can't do much with your face unless you go under the knife, Ted. So I'm going to leave Bobby Kennedy to that. But again, the poor health outcomes have less to do with with your race and more to do with like the choices that you make as yourself, as a person, as an individual. The accountability is yours. Trump 8 years ago, when he was 70, did not look like this. Kennedy is 70. Trump 8 years ago was 70. He did not look like this because of personal choices.
Lack of falconry.
Falconry.
Maybe.
Falconry.
Yeah, RFK is a falconer.
What? No, I didn't know
You
that.
didn't know that? Oh, that's a big thing. Yeah, no, it's
weird.
Yeah, no, he's really an active falconer. Who isn't really a falconer?
Oh, interesting.
But
the UAE royals are
he has
all
his own
falconers.
Yeah, he's his own pet falcon and stuff.
Oh,
I mean,
I did not know
as
that.
everyone should have.
Okay, this one I have
perfect for pet control, and we're way over. So
we're way over.
Yeah.
The last thing is they say layered bias. Do healthcare workers realize
is that like
one
a tasty
person...
sandwich? Like that's like a BLT with like.
Oh no! Yes, intersectional.
Love me some layered bias.
This is where the intersectional stuff, where you and I get confused, Ted. Where I'm like, what the hell is this? Do healthcare workers realize that one person may belong to more than one sidelined group? So we're no longer, Ted, saying the marginalized people thing. That's not. It's sidelined group, which is dumb to me, but okay.
Sidelined
Sure.
Doesn't sound positive to me either.
No, all of it sounds
sidelined
dumb.
Is like, the coach sidelines you when he doesn't want to play you.
Right.
You're sidelined.
Right. So
Progressives are sidelined from the Democratic Party. Bernie was sidelined from the 2020 primaries. Sidelined. Not good. Sideline's not good.
Yeah, I don't know why that language is the thing now. But I think you agree with me. It's less to do with your race, your age. It's more about your class and your wealth status. It's a lot less to do with.
Well, like they say, call me anything you want. Don't call me late for dinner. Call me anything you want, but take my insurance and a insurance company approve my claim. That's the shit that really matters. Look, I think we can agree that language is important. The problem with this approach is that it prioritizes language to the expense of everything else. And it's a distraction and it's excessive, right? It's like if you wanted to sort of say like, hey, everybody, like quick reminder, 15-minute talk, don't say, hey, Crip, you're up next, like, hey, Gimpy, we're here to fix your fucked up foot. Like, to be polite, use that appropriate language. Yeah. Like, hey, any blacks here? We're ready for you. Like, don't say anything like that. Like, talk like a normal person. That's fine. Obviously, that's great. That's just about being professional. The problem here is that with everything in the workplace, especially when it gets corporate, what happened here, by the way, and you're going to agree with me here. What happened here is that some fucking consultant group, like a McKinsey type organization, came up with this fucking program, and they're like, we can sell this to corporations. And you go to the corporation and you say, your hospital has to pay $150,000 for us to come in and administer this training and be your facilitators. It's a cash flow thing. And the companies are like, oh yeah, we'll do this because like it'll cover our ass in case of lawsuits, discrimination and all that. It's a business. And then, the doctors, nurses and
woke
staff,
is a business.
Woke is a business. And then the people on staff, they have to put up with this shit. And meanwhile, they're not doing their job instead. I mean, that's the problem here. Consultancy is a scam. Consultancy should be illegal. That's what this is about. This is consultants gone wild. I worked for a consultancy company in San Francisco in the mid-90s. And it was all former bankers. I don't want to say we, because I was like the second lowest ranked person in the entire company, just above the receptionist, right? I was just a financial analyst. But anyway, we consulted to banks. And so it was crazy. We would parachute into a bank in like Salt Lake City, and we'd be like, show us how you do your business. And then we come up with a report that tells them how they could do their business better. It's like, no one knows better than the people who work there how their business
Right.
works. And I bet if you ask like low and middle ranking employees things that could be improved, you'd get very useful information. But because we were a consultancy, like they would pay us hundreds of thousands of dollars, we didn't know dick. We're just making shit up. We're pulling it out of our ass.
Yes.
Or we're getting it from them. I mean, that's what consultants do. It's ridiculous.
It is a scam. And if I can't find a journalism job that I can stomach, Ted, in the next few months, I'm going to come up with my own consultancy group. I don't know what yet.
Ooh, that's a good idea. You got to do it.
I'm going to think one up, and I'm going to get in.
Business. Yeah, because you can play the whole Asian thing.
I can. Yeah, like if I seriously
survivor, cancer survivor. Ooh.
I can play this whole angle, man.
Yeah,
if I can't find a job that I can look in the mirror and still respect myself, I'm going to say fuck it and dig into this. And look, this. Oh, you can't see that last number. Austria. 52 doctors per 10,000 people. So per capita, United States, 26 doctors. So Austria has twice as many doctors as us per capita. But as we're talking about woke and we wrap up, so when Vivek Ramaswamy was running for president still, so it must have been a year ago. When did he drop out? Like a year ago? Last spring maybe? Or before that? I can't remember.
Sounds about, more than a year ago. Yeah, about a year ago. Yeah.
About a year ago. So I wanted to know more about this dude, right? This like first millennial running for president, which is, kind of in and of itself kind of cool. I don't hate him, but I don't love him, right? So I reluctantly read his book, Woke Inc. Reluctantly. And I have to say, at the end of it, I went in with an open mind, even though I was reluctant to read something or to buy something, contribute to Vivek's wealth. I have a lot of objections to who he is as a person, but I'll put that aside. I read his book and he talks about this woke as an industry and really, really delves into it. And I must say, at the end of it, I was really impressed, and I had a better understanding of how corporations and why corporations are actually exploiting this to make money. He doesn't talk about like the healthcare. He touches it a little bit because he's a biopharma bro. That's his company, right? That's how he made his billions, or I think he's a billionaire. That's how he made his money because he's a biopharma bro. And he talks about how the wokies got into that industry too, but not necessarily delving into patient-facing care like this, like what we're talking about. But I will recommend, if anybody wants to understand how woke became this industry in and of itself, Woke Inc. by Vivek Ramaswamy was actually very, very insightful. And I was surprised. I was actually surprised. But you should read it, Ted. You would like it. You would actually like it.
Okay.
So
all right, let's get out of here.
All right, we're out of here because this is way overtime. And we thought we were going to get out on time today without any guests. But what can we say, Ted?
Nothing.
Good topic.
Nothing at all.
Good
There's
topic.
nothing to say.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please, everyone, remember to hit the like button wherever you're streaming us, and hit that subscribe or follow button. Even sharing us on social media will help us tremendously so we can grow our little venture here and grow our little community. Thank you so much. And of course, thank you, Putinbot, for swinging the hammer on the trolls and keeping the chat streamlined. And of course, the chat in the Rumble room, everybody in there. Always appreciate our daily friends in there putting in their 2 cents. We are out. We'll see you back here on Hump Day. We're going to hopefully talk about more Ukraine stuff in depth tomorrow. We'll keep you filled in because there's a lot of stuff happening there. Thank you all for being here. Adios, amigos.
Bye, everyone.